of MMA, and it continues with this theme that for me as a fan is driving me nuts. We just got through the phenomenon of I want the money fight. Remember when we started hearing that, but then everybody started saying it, and it's like, guys, I've got to hear something else. I can't tune into a press conference. I can't click on your interviews. I just don't want to see this stuff. If you're saying the same thing that the other guy said, I don't give a damn what the topic is. If you start saying the same thing that the other guy said, I'm out. And for a meaningful period of time, all we could hear was, well, I want the money fight. I want the big money fight. I want the big money. Shut up. I want you to have the big money fights too. I want all of those things. We all do. Great. But 5 other guys said it. So now you're number 6. I'm out. It doesn't matter what the topic is. I'm out. The UFC started enforcing a dress code where everybody had to dress the same way at press conferences. They look classy up there, but I'm not interested. I don't want cookie cutter stuff. I just don't want guys to look the same and say the same thing. It's the hardest thing in the world is to have other people interested in you. It's a really hard thing to do. A guy's got to be able to go be himself. He's got to have his own identity. He's got to have his own footprint, his own fingerprint in the world. Don't dress him the same, and damn sure don't talk him the same. And the new phenomenon, what gets me going on this, the new phenomenon is when guys are being given fights, big opportunities, mega fights that could headline shows and bring in attention and media and sell tickets and drive ratings and pay-per-views and do everything else that the industry needs. They're then turning them down. The guys are turning them down. Now, the story always ends the same. The house always wins. It's just like Vegas, guys. The house always wins. The fight's going to happen. So going out and refusing it and delaying things and holding things up in the first place, and all you're doing is irritating people. It's irritating to see. And if that's your plan, Anderson Silva used to have the same exact recipe for every fight. No matter who his opponent was, he would refuse the fight. He would gain as many headlines for as long as he could. Once that died down, he would then accept the fight. Once those headlines died down, he would then put out some kind of a false rumor that he was injured and perhaps the fight was off. Once those rumors would die down, he'd go do the fight. It was the same thing every time, and that is not an insult to Anderson. It was unique to Anderson, and he did it. I noticed it because I was following his career. But he had the same recipe. Okay, fine. It was a little annoying when he did it, but he still achieved his goal. And he did it in a very timely fashion. He would deny the fight until those headlines went away. He would then accept the fight until those headlines went away. He'd wait a month or so, and then he'd come out with some kind of an injury report until those headlines went away, and then he would come out and clear the air and go, I don't know where those came from. I don't know who started that. I feel just fine until those headlines went. This is how he laid his architecture for groundwork before a fight to make sure the attention was out there. Fine. But when other guys started doing it, well, now it's annoying. Don't copy another guy's script. There can only be one guy up on stage with an accent and in a bow tie. And if you want it to be you, you need to be the first one to do it. I can bring this example up over and over, but I love to use the one of Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali is the greatest boxer of all time. Well, he was a damn good boxer, but that's where it ends. He was a damn good boxer. Why is he known as the greatest of all time? Because he said he was the greatest of all time. But most importantly, and do not forget this piece of the puzzle, he was the first one to say it. If he came along and 5 other guys claimed they were the greatest of all time, that moniker would not have stuck. He was a damn good boxer. No, he wasn't the greatest of all. Come on, please. But he was damn good, and he will be known forever as the greatest of all time because he claimed he was, and he claimed it first. Now we've got, there's your marketing tip for the day. Be first. Identify yourself before somebody does it for you. Demetrious Johnson, who has never had a big fight ever. Greatest talent out there. He's ranked number 1. I don't believe he is better than John Jones, but the rankings say otherwise. Let's give it to him. On a hell of a streak right now. And beyond question, an amazing talent. But he wants big fights, and he's the first to tell you, look, I don't make very much money, but I just don't have very big draws in this division. He made a very good point before his last fight. He said, we don't have a lot of drama or a lot of a-holes I'm paraphrasing, in this division. So it's very hard to build interest. Well, he's right. There isn't a lot of drama going on down there, and that does create for some anticipation. He is right about that. And there's not a lot of jerks down there. He's the good guy. He's always going to be the good guy. That's never going to change. That spot is taken. That seat is filled by him. So a counterpart has to be a bad guy or somebody that you can find interesting. But being interesting is the hardest thing in the world to do. It's really difficult. It can happen. It can make for a big fight. It's just really hard to do. So he doesn't have any a-holes or any drama, which means he doesn't have a bad guy. Nobody wants to see two good guys fight. Okay, there's a reason that Spider-Man and Superman never went at it. There's a reason the Lone Ranger never got in a gunfight with John Wayne. Do you guys understand? There has to be a good and there has to be a bad. That's a little bit easier to do. So he's stuck. He's absolutely stuck. However, out of nowhere, TJ Dillashaw says, I'm going to go down to 145. I'm going to challenge Demetrious Johnson. Great. Thank God and hallelujah. Is that going to do great numbers? Hell no, it's not. Is that going to do great numbers in comparison to anything else Demetrious has ever been part of? You bet your ass it is. So Demetrious Johnson comes out. I mean, this should be the greatest news in the world. This should have, this is Christmas. Christmas came early for Demetrious. He's going to continue the streak. He gets to take on a former world champion. Instant parity. I mean, you talk about super fights. That's a champion from one division taking on a champion from another division. TJ Dillashaw was the 135-pound world champion. Demetrious Johnson is the sitting flyweight champion of the world. That is a super fight any way you want to slice it. Now, again, I am saying in comparison to other things that Demetrious has had. Demetrious comes, instead of saying thank you, instead of saying wonderful, welcome, come on down, lose the weight, get on the scale, and let's do this, he says no. If he was following the blueprint of Anderson Silva, which is to say no just because that's part of the recipe, knowing full well eventually I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to slip in the injury claim, and that's how I'm going to get my media for the next 2 months and hope that people buy the pay-per-view, great. The problem with Demetrious is this guy's a poker player, man. He just tells it like it is. If he's saying no to the fight, he really means no. Again, the house always wins. You can bet your ass that fight's going to end up happening. Let's leave that out of it. Let's leave the reality of the conclusion that we all know out of it for a second and just look at it at face value. Demetrious is saying no. He then told TJ Dillashaw, come to 125, win a fight, and then you can get a title. First off, Demetrious and every other fighter there, you are not the matchmakers. That is not how this works. And you can hold that belt and think that gives you power all you want. It doesn't. It absolutely does not. And it shouldn't. And it's annoying. It's really annoying on top of everything else. Secondly, Demetrious, and far more importantly, TJ doesn't give a damn about your division. TJ could go fight for the title right now at 135. As a matter of fact, he has a signed contract to fight for the title at 135. As a matter of fact, he's fought for the title at 135 other times. As a matter of fact, he was the champion of the world at 135. So if you want TJ to do you a tremendous favor, which is what this does not serve TJ. TJ is not going to do better business or get a better opportunity cutting weight to 125 and coming after you than he would by staying at 135 and just fighting the contract that he's already got, which is for a world title that just had the backing of the Ultimate Fighter behind it. He's going to do better business up a weight. But if Cody's hurt and that fight can't go on, and TJ wants to be a team player and move business and move the company forward, maintain the shot for a world championship, and now bring you into the mix, the odd man out here is not TJ. The odd man out here, Demetrious, is you. You're the odd man out. You're the guy that doesn't have a dance partner that anybody cares about, and that's not a knock on you. This is a reality statement. That is just purely in reality. And I'm using your own words, Demetrious. You came out and told us 1 week before your last fight, we don't have any a-holes and we don't have any drama, and it's what's killing me from getting big fights. And you were right. TJ is not an a-hole, and TJ does not bring drama. but he can insert the one other element that we never talk about because it is so hard to get, which is TJ is interesting. And a fight between you and TJ, though it is not good versus evil, though it is not the Joker versus Batman, it is interesting. That's an interesting fight. TJ doesn't need you. You are not TJ's ticket to a world title. TJ has a contract right now signed to fight for a world title at the weight class that he chooses more comfortably to make and participate in. He is willing to walk away from it to come down to your division. If you want to play the whole get in the division and get in line routine, you got to be holding some cards. You're not holding them. TJ is. And next to TJ, the promotion is. And in this rare case, and for whatever reason, they both said okay. They both just did you a huge favor. And you looked a gift horse in the mouth. Look, for the fans that want to see that fight, you'll see that fight. You will see that fight. The house always wins. But why we have to deal with the drama and the phone calls and everything else that the bosses in the company have to put up with, man, do you want to fight or not? Are you one of these boxers that wants to protect some kind of a false legacy? You want to break the record and you want to do it with the easiest guy you can? Or do you want to go out and fight? Because that's what legacy gets represented on. When the story is written and Manny Pacquiao ducked Floyd Mayweather, that's going to be reflected on. When the story is written and Floyd Mayweather ducked Manny Pacquiao for 5 years, that's going to be reflected on. And for you guys that talk about legacy, I can just tell you, when I was a young man in high school and I go watch the football games and guys that had graduated years before would show up wearing their Letterman's jacket, I thought they were weird. I didn't think it was a cool thing. I thought it was strange. When you guys grow out of fighting, when you grow out of sport, don't worry about being remembered. Leave it for the next guy who's in there, who's working his ass off, and whose opportunity is now. That's what it's about. It's not about the guy coming back and sitting in the front row and signing a couple of autographs and informing everybody who he is as people in the crowd are, women in the crowd are tapping their boyfriends and husbands saying, who's that? Who's that guy that just did a photo? Because no one knows. They shouldn't know. There's no reason you should be remembered forever. There's no reason the guys that graduated my high school should have showed up to the games wearing their Letterman's jacket. They just should. It's weird. Fight the fights you can fight. Win the ones you can win when you can win them. And say thank you and say yes to opportunity.